I'm going to talk about the Arts and Policy certificate that was launched this year in Mannheim, Germany, and in Asunción, Paraguay, with the objective to improve policy effectiveness through arts. We are in this initiative with many colleagues in this room, with Doris, with Rob Austin, with Pierluigi Sacco, with Rainer Kern, with Luis Aran, and others. And before I talk about the certificate, let me share with you some of my experience, personal experience, that motivate me to engage with this group of colleagues in the certificate. I'm an economist. I worked at the World Bank for 10 years, based in Washington and in Almaty, Kazakhstan, working with governments in Latin America and in Central Asia. Then, after that, for 5 years, I was the Minister for Planning for Development in Paraguay. And in all of these years, I have not had a single meeting when we discussed how art could improve policymaking. The discovery of the potential of art for improving policymaking in poverty reduction, education, health, and social protection, the areas I work, was done after I left government. And in conversation, I started working with Doris, and in conversation, systematic conversation on culture and development. And looking back, it feels sort of intriguing why we don't talk on arts and policy in the policy community, at least in the policy community I was moving through during these years. There are basic facts that we agree to know within the policy community I was working. One is that the policy success is about changing people's behavior. We know also that for people to change behavior, they need to learn new ideas and new practices. We also agree that learning without pleasure is very difficult to achieve. And we also agree that art is a great way to create pleasure. So it seems rather obvious, putting these four things together, that art should be a very important way to improve policy effectiveness. But that's not the case. And as I mentioned, I never have a single meeting in more than 15 years, in the last almost 15 years. So our goal is to try to put these rather obvious things in a way that could be brought to policymakers to discuss and to bridge communication between two camps. Some more traditional, I would say traditional, because there are policymakers who are artists like Salvador and others. But for some reason, the way that I would say, from my perspective, the mainstream doesn't talk about these things. And so we put together this short certificate aims to policymakers with two objectives. The first is to help them, help policymakers to realize the importance of arts for improving policy effectiveness. And the second is providing certain tools that will help us to engage with artists in the co-creation of effective public policies. So we decided first to focus on local policymakers, seems to be more fertile soil. And we launched this very short certificate, 4 sessions of 2 hours online, where we make available things like in this conference, cases where art has helped to achieve, to improve living conditions. Then another 4 sessions of 2 hours face-to-face, where people start working in groups, getting new tools for using art as a diagnostic tools and some suggestions. They start interacting with artists, and they designed an initial intervention, policy intervention in their areas. And a third stage where they take these initial designs to a prototype intervention in the community. And so far, so good. So we have 2 pilots, or nearly 50 local policymakers participated. They acknowledge the importance and high potential of art to improve local policing. They develop prototypes and using art as a tool, and they start engaging local artists in implementing these prototypes in areas of energy efficiency, early childhood education, civic engagement, water management, and green areas revitalization. We believe that the Arts and Policy Certificate could be a cost-effective way to improve policy effectiveness. By bridging the conversation between policymakers and artists, and we believe that art is very valuable by itself, but however, we also believe that art also is an important and underused tool for policymaking. The contribution of art to more effective policymaking have to be measured by standard ways of how we measure policy effectiveness in the academic and policy community. And we hope to see art as a mainstream tool in the policymaking process, and in this way, the policy effectiveness could increase and people's lives could improve much faster. Thank you.